I am indeed very grateful for this invitation and an opportunity to interact with so many colleagues, friends and citizens. The dust seems to be settling down after the new government has taken over, and probably it is time now to go back to look again what happened, how it happened and what lies ahead. And these are precisely the three things that I would be doing in the next 40-45 minutes or so. We probably were one of the groups which projected that the BJP individually as a party would get 32% votes, and the BJP finally ended up getting 31% votes. So I am not very apologetic about what we did. Where we went wrong, however, was how these votes would convert into seats, and that's precisely which is my starting point this evening. So what has exactly happened? This election was almost an exact mirror image of 2009, because in 2009 the Congress had polled 29% votes, the BJP polled 31% this time, and last time the BJP had polled 19%, this time the Congress polled exactly the same vote share, 19%. From 1989 onwards, the Congress has not been able to not only get votes but also not able to convert those votes into seats. This time it has reached the lowest. I would say this, that for every 1% vote that the Congress got this time, it got roughly about 2 seats only. And again you will find a steep rise between 2009 and 2014, where for each 1% vote, the BJP could add roughly 8 to 9 seats to its tally. And that is the difference in terms of the ability of the two main contestants of converting their votes into seats. So while we look at this victory of the BJP, we need to keep these 2 points in mind. One, that the BJP's victory owes mainly to the fact that the BJP was successful in strategizing where to field candidates, where to campaign what way, and how to win seats, not just votes. Number one. But number two, the BJP's success story has a severe limitation, that the party is still popular only in those regions where it was so popular in the 90s. If you look at the 1998-99 elections, you will find that this is exactly the region where the BJP was popular. Let me then turn to the next issue. How did this happen? I would argue that the success of the BJP was probably already coming there. And that is why I am putting this table here. These are figures from the various national surveys that we did as a group from all the time from 2011 onwards. And again it is interesting, forget the figures, if you just look at the ratio and the proportion of net dissatisfaction from January 11, you will find that even in January 11, their net dissatisfaction was something like 1 point plus something. From then, June 13, you find 1 dissatisfied person, 3 dissatisfied persons. Suddenly the ratio has gone haywire for the UPA. So the UPA was already in a position to lose the election most comfortably in June 13 itself. If the Congress party were doing politics, they would have called for elections in the immediate aftermath of monsoon of 2013. It was the time when Modi was not yet popular. It was the time when Modi had not spread his popularity across the country. So the Congress could have done their politics well, but they didn't do it. This is exactly the time when Modi starts campaigning. The Modi campaign doesn't happen during election campaign. The Modi campaign happens from June onwards, when he was designated as the campaign chief of the BJP first and subsequently the prime ministerial candidate of the BJP. By January, Modi had practically won the election. There is no denying fact that Modi's popularity definitely contributed to the BJP's electoral victory in 2014. There is one more way of deciphering the Modi effect. What Modi does is adds to that natural constituency and makes it possible for the BJP to win these elections in an unlikely manner. And that is why BJP's victory is mainly, as much as it is due to UPA's non-performance, due to also Modi's leadership. The other reason why I said that this election was fought, contested and won much earlier is in the second point here, namely that 42% people said that they had made up their mind who to vote for much before the campaign, even before the campaign started. Modi did very simply one thing. He made this election a plebiscite on himself. Right from the beginning he said, vote for me. That's the only message, nothing else. That after all this becomes possible because Modi was in a sense able to reach to the perceptions of the people, tap those perceptions and get votes for himself and his party. He knew how to package himself and therefore he packaged himself accordingly. A quick look into the possibility of which Modi people might have voted, though there is no denying fact that 54% upper caste and 40+% OBCs voted for Modi. And therefore the argument both in the media and otherwise that while Modi represents a certain middle class, he also represents the aspirations of those classes who want to become middle class. Then coming to the main question of this evening, is this all going to change our politics? A paradigm shift could be expected because this is for the first time in independent India's political history that a non-Congress government has come to power on its own. So you have naturally every right to expect that things would now change. As far as the mandate or the election of 2014 is concerned, there are these three possible readings of the election. And my submission would be, depending upon what Modi and his party reads in these elections, whether he would create a new politics or not would depend. The first way of reading this election would be simply to say there was a mess for 5 years and probably for 25 years. Let us clear the mess and have some governance. But there is a question mark over this governance question or the governance reading for one more reason, which is that will Modi convert himself into an imperial prime minister? So ministers are appointed, but all important decisions, policy matters are in the purview of the prime minister. So that would be one way or one path that this government might take. Number two, but Modi has also spoken about development, and therefore would there be development? Would there be great changes in the way we develop is another question. This election was a response to progressively greater government intrusion into the lives of people through extensions of the rights approach to housing, entrepreneurship and health, rather than empowering them directly through growth and development. Now this path is one path available for the Modi government. So development, yes, but what development means in the Modi textbook of economic progress is something we don't know yet. The third problem, BJP after all is a party which has historically always upheld a certain idea of political community in this country, namely Hindu nationalism. Are we now forgetting that? Of course, Modi didn't say much about Hindu nationalism during his speeches. He gave only one interview initially in which, however, he said that yes, I am a Hindu nationalist and for me Hindutva means nationalism and nationalism means development. So we don't know, after reading this one sentence, we don't know where we stand. But at the same time, I would like to believe that Modi and his party, rooted as they are in a certain ideological understanding of Indian society, might legitimately want to do something about it. They might legitimately think that now that we are in power for the first time with a clear majority, let us push our agenda. Will they do it is a question. My argument is that these are the three readings possible in this mandate. One would be that we are given this mandate for a good government with a mix of whatever. Number two, we are given this mandate for drastically revising the economic policy. And number three, we are given this mandate for drastically reconstructing the understanding of what constitutes political community in this country. If Modi were to adopt and his party were to adopt the second or the third alternatives, problems might start emerging, although it might then be a paradigm shift. So there might be a paradigm shift, but that paradigm shift would definitely create new political issues, new political questions, which we might not be able to grapple with. To end, however, I must also say that this is not something that Modi is single-handedly going to do or has already done. So I would argue that Modi happens because our normative framework as a society has already changed. Now Modi presides over it, and as he presides over it, he is naturally likely to consolidate the framework which brought him to power. So even if there were no paradigm shift, even if there is no dramatic change, small changes in the way we understand our cultural existence, in the way we relate to each other in this diverse country, in the way in which we conduct our public affairs, in the way in which we conduct our public education systems, and in the way we do research, in all these fields, I am sure that there would be invisible pressures, and these invisible pressures are much more demeaning than the actual pressures. When the actual pressure comes, there is resistance. When there is an invisible pressure, there is a tendency to buckle under it quietly. And the moment the public intellectuals and the media in this country, both of whom have been responsible for bringing about Modi, start buckling under Modi, the paradigm shift would have been complete. Thank you. Tough task to answer so many queries, very specific ones. I would not respond to them in the order in which you have asked the questions. But beginning with the larger question about the South Asian region not being ready for democracy. I can start with that because that is one thing that I can strongly disagree with. Our finding, the first report has already been published, is unambiguously that there is something like a deep-rooted attraction for democracy. We need to distinguish two things. One is this enchantment, as one famous scholar has described, enchantment of democracy, and the running of democracy. If one were to critique that South Asian region is not yet very suave in running democracies, that would be a well taken criticism. But that we are not democratic is something difficult to accept, even looking at Pakistan for that matter. So the deeper issue is not dynasty. The deeper issue which we never, and our media never allows us to consider even, is why does family become a resource in our democracy? However, then Modi has not done anything very dramatic in the last 2 months, and I would say that I am not surprised, because for running a gigantic country, continental country like India, if you start doing things dramatically, then the drama comes to an end. Even if you are a good political artist, then you would realize that the drama, the tempo of that drama has to be sort of speeded up midway after your term. So that drama would begin circa 2015-16, not earlier than that. This last bit that you read out, the list of ministries and charges given to different ministers, etc., I understand that it is a temporary arrangement in the first place. I am expecting that there would be an expansion of the Union Council of Ministers at some point, and then these people would be divested of some additional portfolios. But that is not related to the main point that we have been discussing, and you also mentioned it, namely the concentration of power somewhere, which is again a feature that Indira Gandhi brought about. The PMO as the center of power and the Prime Minister as the center of all decisions is something that Indira Gandhi brought about. That might now get replicated in this new Modi regime also. I am not going to say much about either AAP or Maharashtra. For AAP, because they have been destroying themselves, and for Maharashtra, because the writing is on the wall. So thank you.